Deep in the temperate forest, where fog crawled low and moss softened every sound, lay a fallen giant, a hollow log once part of an old-growth maple. Its wood should have been brittle by now, collapsing into rich soil like countless trunks before it. But it wasn't. The bark remained intact. Hard. Whole. Unnaturally preserved. A small red-backed salamander, known in the region as Miro, climbed across the hollow's upper ridge. Salamanders were masters of moisture, reading the forest by humidity and decay. And logs were their world, shelter, food, warmth. But something about this log was wrong. No cracks. No rot. No softness in the bark. Miro pressed her tiny foot against the surface. It didn't flex. It didn't crumble. It didn't even flake, despite decades of exposure. She paused. This wasn't normal. Nearby, Dr. Ethan Callum, a forest ecologist studying decomposition cycles, knelt in front of the same log, running his fingers over the bark. It's solid, he murmured, baffled. His assistant, Lena Marrow, tapped a chisel lightly against the side. Nothing chipped off. It's like petrified wood, she said. Except it's not stone. Miro crawled along the top, feeling a faint vibration beneath the bark, something deep within the hollow, like a heart beating miles away. She froze. Logs didn't vibrate. Ethan noticed her sudden stillness. The salamanders usually hide inside logs, not avoid them. Lena nodded. If even the microfauna won't touch it. Something beneath Miro pulsed again, soft, slow, wrong. The log, ancient and dead, was not behaving like dead wood. It wasn't crumbling. It was resisting. By midday, the forest warmed. Dew lifted from ferns, beetles scuttled to life, and mushrooms released invisible spores into the air. But the hollow log remained unchanged. Miro tried again to climb the bark, testing different patches. Normally, moist, decayed bark would break under her weight. It never did. She pressed her head against a seam, and felt dryness. Absence. Emptiness where nutrient-carrying fungi should be. Something had cut off decomposition. Inside the log, Lena slid a long scope into the hollow and squinted through the lens. That can't be right. What is it? Ethan leaned in. There's no fungal growth. None. In a log like this, we should see entire networks of hyphae. But it's clean. Impossible, Ethan whispered. Miro crept down the side and sniffed at a cluster of fungus growing on a nearby stump, vibrant, damp, healthy. So the forest fungi were working normally. Just not here. A northern short-tailed shrew darted across the leaf litter, sniffing the bark. Shrews usually burrow under softened wood, devouring beetle larvae. But this one brushed the log only once before recoiling violently, squeaking in alarm. Lena scribbled notes. Invertebrates avoiding it. Vertebrates avoiding it. Ethan pressed his ear to the bark. I swear I hear something. Inside. A beetle colony? Lena guessed. Ethan shook his head. No movement. Just resonance. Miro crawled onto the top again as a faint wind brushed the leaves overhead. The log did not react. No hollow echo. No shift. No release of old air. Miro tapped her foot against it. Hard. Cold. Wrong. The forest accepted death. Used it. Recycled it. But this log, this dead giant, refused to die. And Miro felt it watching her. Night fell early under thickening clouds. Miro ventured out again, following her nightly route around stones and moss beds. She passed dozens of logs, some cracked, some spongy, some dripping with decay. Perfect for salamanders. But when she returned to the strange log, a new wrongness had appeared. The ground around it was dry. The air was humid. The soil nearby was damp. But the earth touching the log was bone dry, as if it repelled moisture. Ethan and Lena returned with portable sensors. Lena stuck a moisture probe into the soil. The reading was nearly zero. Desiccation? She asked. Ethan frowned. But why just this area? Something is draining water away. Miro perched on a small knot in the bark, her tiny sides rising and falling. The log seemed warmer now, faintly, but distinctly. Salamanders sense temperature shifts to fractions of degrees. She felt a pulse again. And another. Lena leaned closer to the hollow's opening. Ethan? Did you hear that? A low hum. Barely sound. More like pressure moving through dead wood. The hum continued, steady, measured, almost biological. Miro scrambled backward, tail lashing. The log pulsed under her feet. Not like a heartbeat. Like something shifting, stretching, testing. Ethan stepped back. Logs don't do that. But this one did. The bark bulged for an instant, as if expanding from the inside, then settled again, perfectly rigid. Lena whispered, "It's resisting decomposition. And now something inside it is moving?" Miro's world depended on rot. But this was not rot. This was the opposite. The log was not decomposing. It was consolidating. Strengthening. Preparing. The next morning brought cold rain. Miro tucked herself beneath a stone, watching the forest darken with moisture. Rainwater streamed down trunks, dripped off leaves, soaked into soil. But when she glanced at the hollow log, the rain slid right off it. No absorption. No darkening of bark. No softening. It shed water like polished stone. Ethan and Lena ran tests despite the rain. Surface hydrophobicity is extreme, Lena reported. Natural bark always absorbs some water. Check the hollow again, Ethan urged. Lena knelt and peered inside. The hollow interior, usually a sponge of decaying wood, was perfectly dry. No spores. No insects. No microbial sheen. Then her light caught something new. Ethan? Look at this. The inner walls were changing. Thin filaments, pale and hair-like, stretched along the interior surface. Not fungal threads, too uniform. Too organized. They pulsed faintly. Ethan's heartbeat quickened. Is that growth? But of what? Lena asked. Miro crawled closer despite her fear. The rain plastered her tiny body, but she ignored it, climbing toward the log. She knew the forest scents intimately, but the smell here was foreign. A strange mineral tang. No decay. No life. Something between. The filaments inside drew inward, retracting, as if aware they were observed. Lena jerked her head back. It moved. Ethan straightened. The log isn't being preserved. It's being reinforced. Something inside is using the dead wood as a shell. Miro backed away, chirping in distress. The log pulsed again, stronger this time. Ethan stepped back. We need to leave this for now. Whatever is happening inside. It's not decomposition. It's construction. And the log was no longer hollow. By the next dawn, the forest felt different. Still. Heavy. Watching. Miro ventured cautiously toward the log. She stopped short. The ground around it had sunk slightly, a shallow depression forming a perfect circle. Soil pulled inward, drawn toward the log like something beneath it was consuming the earth. Root system strained. Moss dried. The forest recoiled. Ethan and Lena arrived, breathless. It expanded, Lena said. The diameter of the log is larger by 2 centimeters. That shouldn't be biologically possible, Ethan muttered. Miro approached the bark again. It felt alive. Warmer than before. Vibrating softly. Reacting to her presence. She placed her tiny foot against it. The bark shifted under her, just a twitch, as if adjusting. She jumped away. Lena swallowed hard. Ethan? I think it's sensing movement. The interior filaments burst into view again, now thicker, lining the hollow like ribs. They contracted in waves, a slow rhythmic pattern. A pattern Miro recognized. She had felt it through the ground for days. A pulse. Ethan stepped back. It's stabilizing itself. Reinforcing. Hardening. But why preserve dead wood? Lena asked. Ethan stared. It's not preserving the log, he said quietly. It's becoming the log. Miro looked up at the once dead tree, now trembling with unnatural energy. She chirped a warning to others, a shrill, sharp call. The forest answered. Branches creaked. Leaves shuddered. The earth beneath the log gave a long, deep groan, not from collapse, but from adjustment. Something had awakened. Something growing inside a body that should have crumbled long ago. The log pulsed one final time. Strong. Confident. Alive. Miro froze, eyes wide. The forest had gained a new presence. And it was only the beginning. The forest woke slowly the next morning, but something in its rhythm felt wrong. Birdsong came late. Wind moved hesitantly. Even insects seemed to crawl with unusual caution. Miro emerged from her hiding place beneath a mossy stone. She stretched her tiny legs, blinked moisture from her eyes, and sniffed the air. The scent of the forest had changed. It smelled compressed, as though something large had pushed the air inward. She turned toward the hollow log. Her breath caught. The log had shifted again, not dramatically, not enough for a casual walker to notice, but to a salamander, to a creature who navigated the world through micro-changes, it was unmistakable. The bark sat higher. The hollow was narrower. And the ground depression had deepened overnight. Miro approached cautiously. The vibration she felt yesterday, faint and inconsistent, now pulsed with steady regularity. Not frantic. Not chaotic. Purposeful. Inside, the pale filaments had grown thicker, branching like veins across the inner bark. They glimmered faintly in the dappled light, as though reflecting something from deeper inside. Lena and Ethan arrived moments later, carrying new equipment. Lena froze mid-step. Ethan? Do you see it? The whole thing expanded again. Ethan nodded slowly. 4 millimeters outward. And look, the circular depression around the log has grown. Soil displacement due to internal pressure? Or due to growth, Ethan murmured. He approached the log, placing his palm gently against the bark. It was warm. Not from sunlight, the forest was still cool from the night. Warm from within. Miro crawled closer, placing her tiny hand on the bark beside Ethan's. As her foot touched the surface, the log reacted. A single, slow pulse traveled beneath her, like a breath. Ethan flinched. Did it just? Yes, Lena said. It responded to contact. Miro scrambled backward, heart racing. She had touched 1,000 logs in her life. None had ever reacted like prey. Or like predator. Ethan grabbed the acoustic sensor. Let's see what it's doing. He pressed the device to the bark. At first, nothing. Just forest ambience. Then a faint pattern emerged. Not random. Not wood creaking. A rhythm. Lena leaned close. Is that oscillation? Ethan's eyes widened. Those frequencies aren't natural. They're coordinated. Repeating. Almost. Communicative, Lena whispered. Miro froze. The pulse inside the log quickened slightly, synchronizing with the vibration she felt through the soil. As if something inside had heard them. Then, for the first time, the bark flexed, a subtle outward push beneath Ethan's hand. He jerked back. It's trying to expand again. The filaments inside contracted and released in gentle waves, like a body testing new muscles. Lena exhaled shakily. It's not resisting decay anymore. No, Ethan murmured. It's growing. And Miro, trembling on the forest floor, understood something the humans had not yet realized. It wasn't only growing. It was learning. The next sunrise arrived with unsettling quiet. Fog hugged the ground in thick layers, muffling every sound. Miro perched atop a rock, watching the strange log with unblinking eyes. She wasn't alone. A gray fox approached silently, keeping low. A barred owl perched on a dying branch, staring fixedly at the hollow. Even the beetles avoided the area, skirting the circular depression in wide arcs. Predators and prey alike were drawn to it, not out of curiosity, but instinct. Something was happening. Ethan and Lena returned with ground-penetrating radar and thermal imaging. Okay, Ethan whispered. Let's see what the subsurface looks like. Lena positioned the unit above the depression and activated the scan. The display loaded slowly, colors forming into shapes. And then, her breath caught. Ethan? Look! Beneath the log was no longer hollow. Nor was it solid. A vast network of branching structures extended downward, not roots, not fungal webs, not animal-made tunnels. They were too symmetrical, too evenly spaced, too layered. As though something inside the log had begun anchoring itself deep into the earth. Ethan whispered, "These formations weren't here 2 days ago." "Whatever is inside the log is expanding outward," Lena said. "Downward. Occupying soil structure, redirecting moisture." Ethan zoomed out. The scan revealed subtle disturbances extending meters from the log, a radial pattern, like ripples spreading underground. Miro felt it too. As she crawled closer, the soil pressed back, soft, as if newly loosened but not naturally. A gentle upward pressure met each of her tiny steps. She froze when she saw something new. The moss surrounding the depression had shifted color. Not dying, changing. A faint reddish tinge streaked through it, matching the hue of the filaments inside the log. Lena knelt, touching one brightened strand. "It's spreading," she whispered. Ethan looked up at the surrounding forest. Branches drooped toward the log, as if weighed by unseen humidity. Leaves twisted subtly, redirecting their angles of growth. Even the trees nearest seemed to lean inward, by a tiny degree, as though gravity had shifted center. "The forest is reorganizing," Ethan murmured. Responding to something. A deep vibration rolled beneath their feet. Predictable. Steady. Strong. Miro pressed herself against the ground. She felt the pulse clearly, not chaotic, not panicked. Intentional. The log's bark trembled as if straining against its own edges. The filaments inside waved like lungs filling. Then, crack. A single piece of bark, no larger than a coin, loosened itself from the surface and fell away. Lena gasped. "It's shedding." Ethan stepped closer. Beneath the fallen bark was not decayed wood. It was smooth. Firm. Pale. Structured. Something new. He touched it lightly. It pulsed beneath his fingertip. He stepped back quickly. "It's metamorphosing." Lena exhaled shakily. "Into what?" Miro, trembling atop a leaf, whispered the truth the forest already knew. "Into something that does not rot. Something that does not break. Something that does not die." And the forest, bending ever so slightly around it, seemed to brace itself. Whatever the log was becoming, it was almost ready.